On today's episode, we're answering the question, no, we're not, because I'm on the wrong damn outline.
Well, the one thing that you would have to look at is there are two different resources that you actually use up when you actually go to do marketing. You can use your time or you can use your money. Then when you're looking at the result is usually the money, right? So when you compare, you have to put a value to your time. You already know the value of money. There is always a number which you either have in mind or which makes sense, which makes you feel like you're moving forward or succeeding or creating enough margin or profit that will indicate to you that you've actually succeeded, right? Some people will say, if I get 10% margin on all the effort that I do, then I'm good. I made a profit and I can just, ramp that up. And then that 10% will represent a large number. And then there's other people that will say, unless I'm making 60 or 70% margin, it's not worth my time. So it's dependent on what you're actually asking for or what you're going for. But, with any business, there's always a great, like a break-even point. And some people at the end of whatever they've done, they don't reach that break-even point, and they know at that particular moment, okay, I've invested too much time, I invested too much money, and this is what I got in return. I do not want to repeat this process. It's either going to burn me up energy-wise, or I'm going to run out of money, or my runway is going to get a whole lot shorter, and I'm going to go out of business.
There's the sunk cost fallacy, which I'm actually really aware of in my own personal life because I am really, really good at doing this. Well, I've already come this far, or I've already done this much, or I've already spent this much money, I've already invested this much time, I've put so much of me into this. I can't give up now. And I think it's really tough for people to find that point where you're talking about like, this is my stopping point. This is my breaking point. Is that something that you really need to define before you start in order to keep just right? Like we've all seen that picture of the gold miners and the one guy gives up. But he's like one more mining pick hit away from the gold.
I have no idea what
Jenny
you're
has
talking
no
about.
idea what I'm talking about. I'm going to find
Well,
it. So
the thing is that
but
I mean, I get the reference, but
I don't like looking at it from a sunk cost kind of thing, like an acceptable write-off, like what you're saying. I still put it into the phrase of how much runway. When you go to do something with your marketing, if you're going to run out of runway, it doesn't matter what you're sinking. Like once the runway is over, the plane is going to crash. Like, I mean, that's it. That's why they use that analogy. It's once it's over, it's over. You run out of space. There's no other move there. Right. So you have to make that judgment going forward. How much am I willing to spend? How much effort am I willing to put into it? And you practically should decide that ahead of time, right? Because that might be one of the best indicators of whether this thing succeeded or not. If you end up running a marketing campaign or doing something to grow your business and you have money left over at the end of the day and you've made a profit, great. But if you run that campaign and you just keep on running it until you finally have no resources left, you've obviously done quite a few things wrong.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Like sunk costs. I mean, I can have a sunk cost as far as working out, but I wouldn't associate sunk costs with marketing budgets. That's too scary for me.
So while you were talking, Allison sent me the picture that she's talking about, right? So it shows two different miners on two different levels of a tunnel. And one is like an inch away from hitting those diamonds, like just an inch away from his goal. And the other one is just like voraciously mining towards it and he'll get there. So one guy's given up right before he hits the goal. And then one guy is like absolutely headed for it. What I get from this, what I understand from Allison sharing this is, you were saying, if you keep going till your resources are gone and your runway is out, yeah, you're going to fail. Is the right thing to do, you said, to plan ahead, but can you add that flexibility that if while you're doing your launch, you can reevaluate during? Because what if your preconceived data points that you wanted to reach, your milestones, mean that you end up 1 inch from the goal?
Okay, this is interesting. Now, to use your picture analogy, if there is an entrepreneur that is starting up, they will probably have a low monetary resource, but they will have a heavy time resource. They probably, like the miner, if it's not costing the miner anything to keep on picking away, and they can keep going, they're going to keep going because they have a huge resource of time. They'll just keep on going, right? With marketing and stuff like that, if you're in the beginning, you might not do a lot of ad spend, but you might just keep on plodding away at like a social media strategy or a promotional strategy because you have the time to do it. When you get later on in business, and you might have a burn rate or a certain amount of income that you have to have coming in, all of a sudden that starts not only affecting how much money you have to spend, but it also affects how much time you have in order to make a profit. So you run a campaign and you say, at the end of this quarter, I want to hit this sales goal, right? You start down that road and you're following your spend like right to the penny. But halfway through it, you're not reaching any of your benchmarks. And if you keep on going by the end of that quarter, you're going to come in like well under, your burn will have outrun your profit, and you will find yourself in a bad situation. That's when you have to cut and run. You have to do something, right? It's probably better to stop than to continue.
It is, absolutely.
It's better to do something else than to continue doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is not working.
So go ahead, Alison. Yeah. We're like both,
we're both, I think, probably in the same place. So what you're saying is, like, before you start, let's set some, you said benchmarks, let's set some parameters for what we expect to happen, not necessarily by the end of this, but even partway through. So it's not even like a post-mortem, like I mentioned when we first started talking, but what is that, a during mortem and an ante-mortem? I don't even know what the technical term, it's right. It's like that. We're going to check the progress of this. If I see, and just to put it in non-corporate retail terms, right? If I see that doing a daily Instagram live is not getting me the signups to my summit that I want, maybe I'm going to go ahead and stop that or scale that back and focus my time and effort somewhere else that I think will have better results because I'm measuring it.
Yes. And there's a whole bunch of things that can affect it. Like, I mean, if you're doing an ad campaign and it's not working, maybe something in the ad campaign needs to change. Something needs to be tweaked, or it just isn't the right strategy or tactic.
What I like, and I do this when I'm doing summits with clients, is we have that, there's usually like a 3.5 week promo period. And I always tell clients, don't look at your numbers for the first couple of days, because the first couple of days, there's not enough data to make decisions. But in the first couple of days, inevitably, 6 out of 10 clients will be like, oh, the page isn't converting, or this isn't happening, or we got to change this, or we got to change that. And they want to change, a whole bunch of things. And I'm like, hold on, this needs to bake a little bit. We need to let it sit for a bit. We need traffic to go to it. You can't make decisions on a summit funnel, landing page, VIP package, etc., based on 35 people coming to your page. If you get 350, sure, we can start looking at traffic. 1,000, absolutely, right? We can start making decisions. But if 35 people come to the page and your opt-in rate isn't stellar, it's not enough traffic. It's not enough to look at it. And I think that is something that people really need to think about, is how their traffic also impacts their things. So if you tell your best friend and your sister-in-law and your brother that you're doing a webinar, and all of them go look at your page, but none of them convert, does that mean your webinar funnel's not converting well? No, you've sent the wrong traffic to it. People need to think about that.
Well, not every single marketing strategy or approach has instantaneous gravitational pull. What's going to end up happening is you have to wait for your audience to, for lack of a better term, go into orbit before you're even going to be able to pull them in. So it's going to take time to measure anything. The first 48 hours or even the first week might not even be appropriate. 2 weeks might give you a hint at where you're going.
Well, that's
right?
why we try and, like, Allison and I do this with our clients all the time. We try and encourage an elongated promo period, and people freak out. They're like, what do you mean I'm going to promote a webinar for 12 days? Right? But it's because of the traffic. It's because people need to, not only one, does the traffic need to start seeing it, and you, all three of us know that even if you put something on your social media 5, 6, or 7 times, most likely the same person isn't seeing it 5 or 6, 7 times. They've only seen it once. So you constantly have to keep trying to position yourself in front of your ideal client with that traffic. So we're going a little off topic and stuff like that, but
well,
yeah,
it's a good conversation, because like even the biggest online advertising giants, even if you put an ad in through Google or through Facebook, it isn't optimized within the first 48 hours. They're still optimizing it to work better. So to think that anything we do is even faster than that is just crazy, right?
But people, and this is a good conversation to have, because a lot of people have these insane expectations. So as an example, it's those expectations of, hey, we're launching a brand new product. By the way, we have no social media following. We have no email list, but we expect to get 150 people to join our ABC XYZ as soon as we promote it.
The funny thing is that you might coach clients along and try to get them to succeed and everything like that. But I think the one chapter that we can't bring up and that we can't say, this is a discussion we're going to honestly have, is we're going to teach you how to have expectations. We're going to teach you what real expectations are in this particular type of business, so that you don't throw yourself down a rabbit hole that you created for yourself that is completely detached from the reality of how this business works.
You're a dick. Seriously.